Sue Ann Barrow, and I am the Community Relations part of Mediatech. And we're very happy to have everybody here this evening. Please welcome David Deutsch. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's all give Sue Ann Barrow here a big hand for having me. We'll just keep him up here for a while. That's okay. That's all right. I'm going to start tonight with a few questions, actually. How is it possible for one guy in New Jersey to help someone he never met in Tennessee get a health insurance agent in Orange County, California in just a few minutes? How is it possible for every company and every person in this room to give the same quality customer service that Nordstrom does to their clients? And how is it possible for one woman in Washington, D.C. to share information on women's entrepreneurial events happening around the world with over 277,000 people with just a few clicks of the keyboard? The answer is social media. And so today we're going to review what social media is, what it isn't, and how it can help you meet your objectives, whether they're business or organizational or whatever it is. Before we do any of that though, we're going to take a big step back and take a look at the history of the internet. How did we get here? What is this social media thing? Okay? The internet actually started in the 1960s. It was a joint project between MIT, the RAND Corporation, and UCLA. A bunch of really, really smart people got together. Computers were the size of rooms at that time. And they said, let's have these computers talk to each other across the United States. It was kind of a really cool idea. Back then it was called ARPANET and DARPANET. Then the Department of Defense heard about that and said, ooh, we can use this to blow stuff up. And so they took it, and for about 20 years or so, the internet was used exclusively by the Department of Defense. By the 1980s, a series of legislation was passed which allowed the general public to use ARPANET and DARPANET. It was then called the internet. And back then in the 1980s, there were BBSs and so on and so forth. You log on to the internet. Then in 1991, something very interesting happened. A man named Tim Berners-Lee wrote the code for the World Wide Web. A lot of people use the term World Wide Web and internet synonymously. They're not the same thing. The World Wide Web is actually code. The internet is the computers talking to each other. And so the World Wide Web actually allows you to access the internet. So the World Wide Web is only about 21 years old right now. I met Tim Berners-Lee, a very, very nice and very modest man. And so by the year 2000, we had 360 million people on the internet. And by the year 2010, it was about 1.9 billion. So it's pretty dramatic growth. But that wasn't supposed to happen, was it? The dot-com bubble came around, right? We all remember what happened when the dot-com bubble hit. Everyone was out of a job, right? People couldn't find jobs. And people were saying, this internet thing was just a big fad. It's not going anywhere. But that's not what happened, was it? The internet grew in spite of the dot-com bubble bursting, didn't it? And so in 2004, this man, another Tim O'Reilly, incidentally, if your name is Tim, there's a pretty good chance you're going to be good at this whole internet thing. Tim O'Reilly held what's called the Web 2.0 conference in 2004. And what he did at this conference was he and a bunch of his friends tried to flesh out why certain websites were growing in spite of the dot-com bubble bursting. And they noticed websites had certain characteristics that made sense. So websites such as Flickr. Flickr was later bought by Yahoo. And what Flickr is a third-party photo sharing site. The old way of doing the internet is you go on vacation, take some pictures, upload it to email, maybe put it on your website, share it with your friends, and ooh, this is great, this is fantastic. Flickr, you could upload your photos to, and people around the world could comment on those photos, and you could have engagement with them. Hence, your memories became a social thing. Hence the term social media, right? So these were the sites that were growing in spite of the dot-com bubble bursting. Now, the truth is, no one really knows where we are right now with the social media thing. It's still very, very new, okay? We literally are all dancing around with bags on our heads. And that's the truth. There are a lot more questions than answers about where we are. However, I believe I have gotten the core of social media down to 2 words: interactivity and narcissism. Now, there are 2 levels of interactivity we need to talk about here today. I'm going to talk about a lot. Listening and speaking. Listening is an extremely important part of social media that's oftentimes overlooked, but extremely powerful. And I'm going to show you how you can actually get real hard dollar value from listening, and you never have to say a thing on social media. Okay? And in terms of narcissism, I'm always very sorry to have to bring Paris Hilton into this sort of thing. However, it's important to understand that there is an inherent self-interest that we all have using social media, right? For example, I do not like sports. I'm sorry to say I am not a sports fan, right? Football, baseball, it doesn't interest me. So I'm not going to engage in conversations about sports. And if you engage me in conversations about sports, you're going to lose me. Okay? However, I am a political junkie. If, however, I engage you in a political conversation and you're not interested in politics, I'm going to lose you. Each of us has an inherent self-interest when it comes to using anything that we do, right? So we have to keep in mind that it's never really about us on social media, it's really about your audience. So I really want you to think of your website as your workplace and social media as the bar after work. Social media is not marketing. It's a conversation. You hear social media marketing and it misses the point. The point is not to market yourself, because if you're at the bar and you market yourself, you're going to be lonely at the bar, right? What you want to do is engage in conversations. So, how do you begin? Where do you start? That's all great in theory, big high-level thing, but where do you start with this stuff? The first thing you have to do is ask the right question. That's the first thing you have to do, ask the right question. A lot of people think that the right question is, how do we use social media? This is actually the wrong question to ask. The right question to ask is, what are our objectives and how can social media help get us there? This is where you have to start. What am I trying to do? How can these tools get me to where I want to go? Because there is a strategy behind this, and there is use behind it, besides talking about where you're eating lunch, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, okay? As a social media strategist, I take a three-phase approach. Educate, strategize, implement. Now there are many, many ways to skin this social cat, right? I happen to have 8 years social media experience. This is my approach. This is not the only approach. There are many, many right ways to do this, and there are many, many, many wrong ways to do this. However, I think that this is the approach that I take. So this is not the final answer on this stuff. This is just my solution, okay? So the first phase that I help my clients do is I educate them. Because oftentimes, I like to say they're frightened by Facebook, terrified of Twitter, lost on LinkedIn. They don't know where to start, right? So what I do is I hold these 5-hour interactive social media seminars where we review Facebook, Twitter, Yelp, Meetup, LinkedIn, Google+, WordPress, and Bitly, right? And here's the thing. So these tools actually work with each other. And you can absolutely amplify your message and your impact of social media. Oh, and by the way, that little arrow thing took me a really long time to figure out how to do, so I hope you're impressed. That took hours to figure out that stupid arrow thing. All right, now I realize this stuff feels very overwhelming for some people, but once you understand how the tools work, you're not afraid anymore, because you're educated. Oh, I can use Facebook for this. I can use Twitter for that. I can use LinkedIn for that. Maybe Yelp isn't right for me, right? But at least you understand how the tools work to eliminate that fear. And while you're going through these seminars, what you're going to actually do is take these kind of notes, these action items, and you're going to say, you know, hey, we can use this to do that. I can engage in LinkedIn to connect with former colleagues and so forth, right? And so the second phase here is strategize. Now, I've got a question for you. When you're looking to build a house, what's the first thing you do? What's the first thing you do when you build a house?
Get a plan.
Get a plan. That's exactly right. You want to get a plan. Why? Because if you don't have a plan, you might have this in mind, then have something like that.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to have a plan in mind. But what does a social media plan look like? Again, there are many ways to skin this cat, and some examples of a social media plan. First, you have to identify what your strategic business objectives are. More members, say, of your organization, right? Member retention of the organization. Maybe improving your reputation online and offline. All right? We're going to go ahead and just take, once you understand your objectives, you're going to look at your metrics. There are many, many ways to get metrics, including number of followers, the quality of your engagements, and your conversions. So what I mean by that is, if you have 10,000 people liking you on Facebook, but they're all high school kids, and your market isn't for high school kids, that's not useful for you, right? So it's about quality engagements. I'd rather have one quality person following me on Facebook than 10,000 who aren't doing anything. So it's not about quantity here, it's about quality of the people you want engaged with, right? And conversions mean, are you turning this into sales? After they visit you on social media, are they contacting you for a follow-up conversation? Time investment, budget, and calendarizing your updates is a part of the strategy. Update this tool this many times per week, update that one this many times per week. We're going to use this feature in LinkedIn, so on and so forth. Right? Tone, messages, and target markets. Tone is extremely important. One of the keys to using social media the right way is authenticity. Having an authentic conversation is so critical to making this successful. If I just speak on your behalf, that's not an authentic conversation. You have to speak in your own voice and answer questions that are relevant for you. Right? Set that tone early. Policies, procedures, best practices. Who's authorized to use, what technologies are approved, and how you're going to deal with criticism. Because people are going to talk about you whether you're there or not, and if they criticize you, you've got to have a plan in place to deal with it. I'm going to show you how that works. Okay? What kind of information are you going to share? You're going to share industry news, client successes with disclaimers, things you learned, mistakes you've made. You actually share mistakes. One of the things I advise my clients is when, not if, when you make a mistake on social media, you can say, you know what? You can write a blog post and say, you know what? I made a mistake. Here are 3 things that I've learned, and here are 5 steps that you can take to make sure you don't make the same mistake. So you're offering value and turning a negative into a positive. Right? But you don't want to promote yourself on this stuff directly. You really never want to do that. I'm going to show you why. And also, set up a listening schedule. You want to make sure you're on there listening to social conversations. Third phase here is to implement. You're putting the pieces of the puzzle together. Right? You're collaborating, you're listening, and you're connecting, but you're not marketing yourself. It's very important. Okay? And, but what kind of content you put on there? People say, what do I do? What do I say on social media? I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. Well, I came up with what I call the 5-95 rule. Okay? 5% of what you talk about on social media, 5% and no more, should be your products and services, events, and items about your business. 5%. 95% of what you should be doing on social media is listening to conversations, gathering and sharing information, asking and answering questions, providing thought leadership, sharing what you've learned, and engaging generally in conversations. Again, remember, you don't want to market yourself at the bar. That's why you want to really talk and listen and not so much speak about yourself. And when you do speak, offer content that your audience will find useful and relevant. Right? In fact, the acronym I came up with is CHEER. Compelling, useful, relevant, and educational. Put the kind of content on there that your audience will find useful for their lives. And do so in a way which encourages interaction, like these 2 fine gentlemen. Right? Here's a news article. What are your thoughts? Agree or disagree, and why? Encourage interaction with your audience. How much time do you spend on this? People say, well, this is a lot to deal with. I came up with what I call the rule of 3s. To get started, if you're really overwhelmed, the rule of 3s, 30 minutes a day, 3 times a week, just to get started. If you're really that overwhelmed, start with an hour and a half a week and set an egg timer. Ding, move on. Just to start, so it's not so overwhelming for you. Right? And importantly, you really want to analyze the data. Because you don't just want to get out there, right? You just throw yourself out there, and you know what your impact is. There are many, many ways to analyze and track your data. Radiant 6 is a social media listening tool I'm going to talk about in a little bit and how it works. It's a bit expensive for a lot of places, but it's a really, really powerful social listening tool. Bitly and WordPress also allow you to track. You can see how many people click on your links and are actually looking at you, so you can see what messages are getting through and why. Now, there are 4 common concerns I've identified using social media. I hear all the time, and I'm going to address each of them. What's my ROI? How about privacy and security? I'm not allowed to share, don't want to share, and updates are annoying. I hear these all the time. Businesses first ask me, what's my ROI with social media? ROI is the wrong metric. You want to get rid of R, because this is not about return on investment. This is about ROR. This is about your return on your relationships. Okay? This is about establishing and maintaining good quality relationships. What's my ROI for coming down here tonight and talking to you? Who knows, right? Who knows? And it could be nothing. And that's fine with me. You go one place and you talk and maybe you get nothing. What's your ROI? Who knows what it could possibly be? The opportunities are almost endless when you go to different places just to network, right? So it's really about creating and sustaining relationships like these 2, right? Privacy and security. Now, this is a real issue. LinkedIn had a security breach. A lot of security breaches all the time. A little scary out there. By show of hands, who drove here today? By show of hands, who drove here today? Over 30,000 people die on our roads every single year. That's more than 10 9/11s every year. If this were a plague, we would all be quarantined. 30,000 deaths a year and up on our roads, and yet we still drive. Why? Well, first of all, we know we can't live like this, right? We can't live like this. What do? We wear seatbelts, right? We use airbags. My car has so many airbags, if I get in an accident, I'm like the boy in the bubble, right? I'll be all set, all right? And we follow traffic laws. There's no way to perfectly be safe in anything you do. But you can take steps to mitigate your risks. Third, not allowed, don't want to share. I hear this a lot from a lot of industries. They're actually heavily regulated by the government, especially the financial services business. They're accountants. They're really heavily regulated. They can't really say anything. So I suggest that they just listen. I talked to you a little bit before about Radian 6, the social media listening platform. I'm going to show you how Radian 6 works. This is our friend Jeff. Everyone say hi, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
Everyone say hi, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
Okay, thank you. So, Jeff here is a client of Company X, right? Any company. He has 100,000 people following him on Twitter. And he's very, very upset. And he goes on Twitter with his 100,000 followers, and he says, I'm so disappointed in you, Company X. How could you have let me down? Company X fail. 100,000 people, potentially 100 million people, are looking at them, Jeff, making fun of your brand and knocking your brand. That could be very dangerous for a brand. One person that's influential, right? Luckily, you're on Radian 6. It pops up on your little dashboard. It's called River News, right? That pops up. Whether or not there are spaces, it doesn't matter. Radian 6 can pick it all up, right? It crawls 17 million social sites in 15 languages, some enormous number. So it picks everything up, that every referral that you have, right? And so customer service receives this tweet and responds right away and says, hearing that we've disappointed you is like a dagger through our hearts, Jeff. We'll look into this and let you know what we find out. Jeff gets the tweet, and wow. Company X, thanks for getting back to me so quickly. I'm seriously impressed. Winning. So what you've done is you've taken a negative into a positive. But here's the cool thing. Not only that, but Jeff's 100,000 Twitter followers are watching this happen. So providing good customer service, you're effectively and wisely marketing your company. You're showing the world that you care about what people have to say, including Jeff. Okay? Finally, updates are annoying. Now, we were talking about this earlier. This is so true. I'm eating chocolate ice cream, yummy, on Facebook. Really? Do you honestly care if I'm eating chocolate ice cream?
No.
No, of course you don't. Who would? How annoying, right? It's just clutter. How about, I'm so lonely, if only I could find my soulmate. This is not autobiographical. But people do put this stuff, I'm desperate. Really? Do you care if someone's desperate? Of course you don't. How about this? I just got out of the bathroom. Man, that was awesome. Really? 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 No. So what do? Right? What do you do when you get these annoying things? Oh, I'm eating lunch, I'm eating chocolate ice cream. What do? How about this? Instead, make yours valuable. How about this? I found, instead of I'm just eating chocolate ice cream, how about I just found this great new brand of chocolate ice cream, brand X is the best I've ever had. Check it out. Is that useful for you? If you like chocolate ice cream, that's more useful for you, right? You say it's not useful for you? You don't care?
I don't care.
Okay. You don't care if someone gives you content that will make your life better?
Not like that, no.
Not like that. If they're sharing information with you saying this brand is the best I've had, you might want to check it out. Just as this chocolate ice cream is just the example. This is not,
I know.
this could be any topic. I'm using this as broadly as I can.
Sue Ann
This is
cares.
Any topic.
Sue Ann's a chocolate freak.
I care, yeah.
No matter what you're doing, no matter what the conversation is, if someone gives you something that, what are you interested in? Let me ask you.
It would be business related.
Okay, so let's say, right, so let's just say it's about business, right? And someone says, here's something that 3 steps to help you grow your business sales from a proven entrepreneur. This is just the example, right? So would that be useful for you if someone says, here are 3 steps that you can grow your sales that are proven by the Sandler training method? Is that useful for you? Right. So it's about sending content, right, that your audience might be interested in. It's not about you. Instead of, I'm so lonely on a Friday night, how about since I've been lonely lately, I joined 3 dating websites. I'll post updates, haha, about my experiences, and I'll blog about it too. Now, that at least is trying to engage people, say, oh, adventures in online dating. That's really trying to reach out and give your audience content that they might be interested in. Better yet, folks, you can just ask a question. And I did this not long ago. I went on Facebook and I said, random question for my Facebook peeps, what is your favorite brand of chocolate ice cream and why? And again, this is just an example. It can be anything about business. What have you done to grow your sales, right? But we're just using the example of chocolate ice cream as an example, all right? What is your favorite brand of chocolate ice cream and why? I just threw it out to the world, because why not? And in 6 minutes, I got 2 responses. Haagen-Dazs because it has strong chocolate flavor but isn't gloopy. Regan's up in North Jersey. Tony, he's in East Los Angeles. He says, Thrifties, it's just jam-packed with good memories. Now, if one of my clients were a chocolate ice cream manufacturer, strong chocolate flavor, isn't gloopy, jam-packed with good memories, I could create an entire ad campaign based on those 3 concepts, saving me tens of thousands of dollars and having to hire some sort of agency to come up with the message. 6 minutes, 2 seconds of my time. I suddenly have strong business value for my client who's a chocolate ice cream manufacturer. But what's really cool is people keep talking, and they talk, and they talk, and they talk, and boy do they talk. They love to talk about themselves, right? And what's really cool is that when it's done right, people talk to each other. This is the heart of social media right here. People start talking to each other. You lose control of your message, and that's okay. Why? Because social media is not marketing. It's a conversation. It's a listening tool. It's a place to generate leads. It's a place to retain and engage customers, to reinforce your brand, establish and improve relationships, a forum for thought leadership, right? A place to information share and gather, right? It's a huge focus group, and it's a place to manage your reputation. But it's not marketing. And ultimately, right now, as we speak, there is a real-time global conversation taking place on social media about something you're interested in. Everything that you're interested in. Doesn't matter if you run a karate school, right? Doesn't matter if you make stained glass, or if you make telescopes like here by Palau, or if you own a restaurant, or if you're an insurance agent, or a doctor, or if you're a lawyer, or if you're a mad scientist, or if you're Mediatech. It does not matter. The conversation is happening, and it's happening with or without you. And I like to say that if you are frightened by Facebook, terrified of Twitter, lost on LinkedIn, nonplussed by Google+, mystified by Meetup, wondering about WordPress, baffled by Bitly, or you need help on Yelp, my name is David Deutsch. My company is Synergy Social, social media strategy. Now, any questions?
Business cards?
Yeah, I have business cards with me. Yeah, absolutely.
How do you get rid of all those messages that are on there? I go once a week and look and I think, fit. And I get off of it.
But can you control any conversation that you have with anybody ever? Can you put someone
I'm
your
not
hand
interested
over
in
someone
what they have to
else's?
say.
Okay, well then follow people that you find interesting.
The Facebook seems too me-oriented and too...
It's
They talk
narcissism.
about their kids, they talk about this, that, the other thing. I mean,
Who
why
cares?
would I be interested?
That's right. And so your job is to provide your community content that they find interesting and engage people for you and not talk about yourself. Your job is to cut through that noise and identify the people who are talking that you're interested in and follow them.
Not a single one has.
Okay, well then your job is to find a new community of people to listen to,
Yeah, right.
right? And you can do that with social tools, not just Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all of them, right? And your job also on Facebook is to provide content that your audience might be interested in.
Aren't there 2 types of Facebook? My son is in the photography business, and he has some sort of connection with just businesses.
Yes, you can set up a business page, that's correct. Your personal page and
How do
business
you
page.
do that? That's what I've been...
Well, you have to go on Facebook and create a page. Within your Facebook personal profile, there's a little button that says create a page, and you create that page, and he walks you through how to do that.
Oh.
That's how you can engage that community that you want to be involved in.
Is
It's
that,
excellent questions, yes.
David, is that a better thing to do than LinkedIn? I mean, what's your feeling about the LinkedIn community versus the Facebook community for business? I mean, I always think of LinkedIn as the business part and Facebook as the just my friend from sleepaway camp card?
Excellent question. Each tool does something different and each business is different. LinkedIn is excellent for professional to professional, right? A business page on Facebook is really good to engage in conversations with your customers. Okay? So each tool does something different. LinkedIn does much more than just professional. LinkedIn is an incredibly powerful tool. There's a reason they're a publicly traded company and they're making a lot of money. It does a lot of things, and it's impossible for me to sit here and tell you all that it does. It's just impossible. But what I can say is that a few weeks ago, I got an opportunity to pitch a really large global company. And I went into LinkedIn and I asked the question, I said, why should someone choose me over a startup versus a huge global company? I got 25 responses in 2 days from people around the world, including Lebanon, not New Jersey, Lebanon, the country, right? And I sent each of them a message and I said, thank you for your response. Would you like to take this conversation offline? And some said yes, and I'd love to be your mentor as you go through this process, because I've been through the exact same thing. So people gave me tons and tons of content, fantastic advice. I got 25 business leads around the world. And it took me 30 seconds of my time, right? So that's LinkedIn, but there's much more to LinkedIn. And Facebook, right? There's much more than the personal side of Facebook. Each tool does something different. And there's no way to say one versus the other is better. It depends on your business and your business objectives. Because I have clients who are not ready for Facebook. They want to be on so badly. I gotta get on Facebook. No, you don't. You gotta stay off of Facebook for the next 6 months at least. Because you're not ready. And they're kind of offended. Look, I'm just telling you the truth. You're not ready. And that's a good thing. Because you're gonna kill your brain if you get on Facebook right now. That's what I tell them. So each client, every business is different. I can't say that one is better than the other. They're all amazing in their own ways.
Can you give us 1 or 2 examples of how LinkedIn can help a business and other ways than just contact?
Oh, okay. Excellent question. So on LinkedIn, I have over 800 connections on LinkedIn, right? People go, ooh, but you know what? Frankly, that doesn't matter to me at all. What matters to me is if you go to my LinkedIn profile, I have 36 written recommendations about my work. 36. I had a meeting a few weeks ago. A guy says, you have a recommendation? I said, no, I've got 36. Go to my LinkedIn profile and ask any of them about my work and my character and my ability to deliver.
That's how I decided to work with you tonight.
So tell the story. So tell the story to him. What happened?
Well, I first heard about David from a guy that I met at ArtsBridge, which is an artists group that is in real time. And I went to a meeting of theirs at the Prailsville Mill, right. And I met a graphic artist, a graphic artist, and I was talking about wanting people to come and talk about technology or media, and he said, well, David Deutsch. So I said, oh, I don't know, David, I don't know. So I went to LinkedIn, and there were all these recommendations, and I read them. Oh, this one said this. Okay. So then I called him. So I suppose somebody else would have then gone on LinkedIn and talked with you there, but I just called you up.
There's business value on LinkedIn. You're not the first person to say that. Well, thank you very much. I have, because of LinkedIn, my life has changed. Completely changed. I have done amazing things on LinkedIn that even people who are experienced with social media, I say, look what I did, and they go, wow. And the same thing, right? So I hear other people use LinkedIn for, I never even thought of that. Because it's really only as limited as your imagination, as your ability to apply the tool.
I've seen polls on LinkedIn. Would you be able to create a poll for your business and send it to people outside of your own network?
That's right. And so LinkedIn is based on networks. So I have 800 something contacts, and that connects me to over 10 million people around the world in first, second, and third degree. And by creating a poll, or like I did asking a question, it reaches out to your first, second, and third degree networks. And those are the people that answered my question.
What do you mean by third degree network?
So it's like the whole Kevin Bacon game. Like I know you and you know someone else. I am first degree connected to you, second degree connected to that person, and third degree connected to the person they're connected to.
What does that mean? I don't understand.
In other words, let's, okay, I'm sorry, what's your name?
Jennifer.
Jennifer, hi, nice to meet you, Jennifer. Okay, so Jennifer, let's say Jennifer and I are connected on LinkedIn. Okay, she's in a first degree connection. We're 1 degree away from each other. Okay, let's say Jennifer knows Jim, but I don't know Jim. Jim is then a 2nd degree connection from me. So I would say to Jennifer, I'd like to meet Jim. Is that possible?
Well, wait
And
a
Jennifer say,
minute.
no, I don't like you. Of course not.
David,
And then it also goes to the 3rd degree as well. Yes.
but you met Jennifer here.
Yes.
In real time.
Yes, that's correct.
So is that where a first degree link is?
That's correct.
Is having met them in real life, quote unquote?
That's correct. And so that's another, and that brings up another excellent point, right? Social media just can't be in a box by itself, right? You're not just online clicking away. You're out there meeting people, and you're connecting with them. Say, I met Jennifer at an event. I met Sue at an event. I'd like to add you as a connection of mine on LinkedIn, Jennifer, and we become a connection, right?
Right, okay.
Just like anything.
So then Jennifer's friend Jim, if you can just go ahead and request to be friends with him.
That's
I know
correct.
Jennifer,
That's
would you be
correct.
my, and then he's first to you.
I can go on LinkedIn and I can say, Jennifer, Jim works in an industry that I'm interested in. Would you mind making a connection for me? And that way, I'm able to get a more warm lead.
So wait a minute, so then you have Jim as a first connection, and then
Right.
all his people become
Right.
second.
And then those people become 3rd. That's exactly how that spider effect works. So if you have 500 connections and Jim has 500 connections, that suddenly, how many thousands of people am I connecting to?
But is it not as good as if it was a first degree? Does that matter? Oh, I met him as a 2nd or 3rd degree.
Well, I mean, it really depends on how well, how well I know Jennifer and how she's willing to introduce me to Jim.
That's as
Right.
opposed to just clicking on the things as they come up.
You can go on LinkedIn and say, and actually request to make a
Right.
connection through a connection.
Right.
And say, I would like to meet Jim, Jennifer, if you wouldn't mind, I would really appreciate a connection to Jim, right? And so then Jim and I have a, say, Jim, I saw you're in this business, I'd like to be able to help you in this way, would you like to have a conversation about that? Not, look at me, look what I can do, yay, I'm so awesome. No. It's, I would like to help you solve your problem that you might or not even know you have. Would you like to have a conversation about it?
The sites
Does that
like
make sense?
LinkedIn and Facebook have like tutorials to help people who aren't as familiar.
Absolutely. Tutorials all over the place. Absolutely. Yes?
Can you explain what you mean by somebody not getting credit? What would be the criteria to say that to somebody?
Along those same lines, you said that you have clients who aren't ready to go on Facebook.
Right.
Are they ready to go on LinkedIn?
Each
Would that
one
be
is
the
different.
first place that you would start?
Each client is different. So for example, the financial services industry, heavily regulated, right, by the SEC, by FINRA. And they have such regulations that on Facebook, if you're a financial advisor, you have a Facebook brand page, a business page, and someone clicks like, that's considered an endorsement and that's banned by FINRA. You're not even allowed to have people like you on Facebook. They have such tight regulations, right? And so they're not, if they get on Facebook and create, I want to create a static business, a Facebook page. I want to role play for a second here. Jennifer, would you mind standing up? Please introduce yourself to me.
Hi, I'm Jennifer.
That is what it's like to create a Facebook page and not have any interaction. It's that awkward. So you can create, see, she was like, ugh, and then everyone's kind of squirming, right? But that's what happens if you just create any social site and don't do anything with it, don't have any interaction. If you say, I'm on Facebook, woohoo! Okay, now what? Right? And if someone interacts with you and you don't respond, it's the same thing. Just what I did. It's just as frustrating as annoying. Just the hello, right? That's what happens if you're on social media just for its own sake and not engaging in conversations. It's awkward silence or you're going to upset your customers. Yes.
But you can go on and say, I'm Joe Smith, I'm a soccer coach. And these regulations don't deal with that if you're in the financial industry. It's only if you put a financial industry page promoting your business.
That's correct.
That you have.
That's correct. That's correct.
So you've got all these people that you can meet individually as a person.
That's correct.
And then if you see that they post something that I just came back from the Bankers Association meeting. Ah, now you know the guy's a banker. But you can also ask to be a friend, and if you're his friend because you're both soccer coaches, you can then look at his page and see all of the things he posts. It tells you where he works and
Bingo.
that sort of thing.
Bingo. But that's a personal page, not a business page. And you still have to be very careful. And a lot of people I know do that in that industry. They're perfectly compliant because they don't directly talk about their business.
If
They're
you
not
did it
allowed
on-
to.
If they were financial people and they did it on LinkedIn, it's still regulated?
All of social media is heavily regulated. And it's actually kind of my goal to knock on FINRA's door and say, guys, really? You know, because I want to be able to explain to them that all you're doing is just hurting people and you're actually not protecting anything.
Can you give a brief success story of someone who really had no knowledge of social media, who had a business and they wanted to get on Facebook, something, how you helped them?
How I help them?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, sure. I mean, I consulted with, in Washington, D.C., the National Council of La Raza, for example. It was a couple of years ago when I first started getting this up and running. This is off the top of my head, many examples, but this is a really good example because they a little younger than me and they thought they understood social media. And I got them on LinkedIn. And I loved I just loved it. They said, we're looking to hire a Hispanic advocacy group, and they were trying to get Hispanics jobs in the corporate sector. And they said, we need to connect with people in diversity departments within 50 miles of Washington, D.C. in large corporations. And so I click, bam, there's 100 of them. Names and direct contacts. The room went silent. You could almost hear the jaws drop. So all of a sudden, they had 100 direct people that they could connect with to help them meet their specific business objective to help young Hispanics get jobs who are at risk or whatever, right? Right off the bat, there it was. I have helped numerous clients across the country, frankly, do the amount of content and the amount of opportunity that I'm working with certain people with it's just unbelievable. Really, I have a current client who was criticized on their own Facebook page pretty heavily. And I said, look, this is going to sit and fester. You can't delete someone else's criticism because that's like telling your significant other their feelings don't matter, right? If you delete someone's criticism on social media, that's like saying your feelings don't matter. Imagine how long that'll last. And so I said, look, here's what you got to do. You got to say, I am sorry you feel this way. What can we do to make this right? And then a week later, follow up and say, have we made this right? And then got a response, yes, thank you. So, big time damage control, where it could really kill your brand. And if you can't engage, if you're a financial services person, that just sits and festers. That's why I tell certain ones they're not ready for Facebook. That's just one example. There are many other examples. But that's one example of how you're not ready to get on Facebook, because then what's going to happen is it's going to sit and it's going to fester and you can't do anything about it. It's on your page under your brand, that really sharp criticism, and you're stuck. And then if you delete your Facebook page, then you've upset people more, because then you said you don't care about, they don't know about FINRA regulations and they don't care.
Could you talk briefly about one or two of these other Bitly and some of those other things you have up there?
Absolutely. So Bitly is actually one of my favorite social tools. And what Bitly does is, at its core, it's a link shortener, so it's a really long URL. You can shorten down to 20 characters to have more real estate on Twitter, as they say. But what it really does, really powerful, is it tracks, among many other things, what Bitly does is it actually tracks the clicks. So you can actually shorten something in Bitly, share it, see how often it's clicked on, see what the source is and the country source. So I have put stuff on, and I can say that LinkedIn likes a certain kind of content because hundreds and hundreds of people in 35 countries click on it, right? But I wouldn't know that unless I used Bitly to really understand what I was saying and the impact that I was having. There's no way to tell unless you use a Bitly type tool that tracks it, and also the country source, right? And so you can say, look, LinkedIn likes these messages, Facebook likes these messages, Twitter likes those, and you can target each message for each application because each one does something different.
Are
But
these
you can't know that unless you use something like Bitly to actually listen and see what's happening and see what your impact is.
are they free resources as well?
Yes. Well, Bitly has a paid resource, but it's $1,000 a month, and you don't need to use that. It's a really, really high-end social monitoring tool that you don't need. But LinkedIn has a subscription service. You have the free basic, and then you can subscribe up. But each of these can be used for free in their own way. Some charge money for certain features. For example, if you're on Meetup and you want to host a Meetup, that's going to cost you $12 a month or something like that to host a Meetup. And Meetup is one of my favorite social tools. It's a fantastic tool where people who have similar interests meet in the real world. It's not a dating site. It's a place where if you are into hiking, you would host a hiking Meetup and people would meet and have a hike together and go out to eat. I've made a lot of friends, a lot of very good friends with Meetup. I love Meetup. I've used it for 8 years. The first social tool I used was Meetup in 2004. Yes.
I'm always curious about some backstories. You say you've had 8 years experience.
Yes, sir.
Apparently you're doing this with your own company for 2 years. How did you get started? How did you get into something like that?
Excellent question. So, I got on LinkedIn in 2005. I didn't know what to do. I was like, all right, I got an invitation from my friend in Finland, actually, who invited me to join LinkedIn in 2005. I was like, oh, okay, I'll join LinkedIn. Okay. And then I was in grad school in Southern California, and I got on Facebook. And I was okay, what's Facebook? It's a website. Get on with it. Okay, I'll get on Facebook. I didn't know, right? And one of my first Facebook status updates was, David Deutsch is sleeping. It doesn't make any sense. How could I possibly be sleeping and updating my status at the same time, right? So I would do these things and just kind of be stupid about it, right? Just like a lot of people. But then in 2007, I had a real aha moment. I was working with a nonprofit, and the nonprofit said, I'm looking for a grant writer. And so I went on Facebook and I just said, I'm looking for a grant writer. I got 3 in 15 minutes. That was my first real aha moment. It's like, wow, look what I just did. I just added real value to this nonprofit getting 3 grant writers. And it took me no time at all and no money. Didn't have to look through the yellow pages. I didn't have to search online, nothing. It was right there. It came to me. And then in 2010, I accidentally gave my first social media seminar. I was working with a criminal defense law firm in Southern California, Joseph P. Smith. I go into Joe's office and Joe says to me, David, I don't tweet, I'm a twit. I don't know what to do with this stuff. I said, all right, Joe, let me come to your office and show you how it works. And I said, well, tell you what, let me show your whole office how this works. Just out of one shot. He goes, fine. So I set it up, and one of his attorneys came up to me, and she hated me, like personally. Not perfect, like she personally hated me. She said, I don't want this stuff. She was jumping down my throat. And I said, look, I'm being paid to be here. Let's just walk through this stuff and we can never see each other again if it makes you feel better. By the end of that seminar, she said, thank you, I didn't know that. And so her not hating me was a fantastic. I was like, yes, she doesn't hate me. That to me was a big success. And that's how it started. That's
And
really
how
how it
did you
started.
learn so you could give this seminar? I don't see anybody advertising courses or programs that make any sense.
This took a lot of time. It took 2 years of trial and error. I would offer the service and I would do the best I could, and I'd say, oh, each time I give a seminar, I'm booked for one on Monday with a client in Hillsborough, right? Each time I give one, I learn something new. I seek feedback. What do you think I could have done better next time? It's a constant process of trial and error. And each seminar is unique and different, and each seminar brings out different opportunities and different perspectives. I never give the same seminar twice, ever. And I'm always learning to this day. I don't trust anyone who says, I'm a social media expert, I'm a guru. Look, I focus on 9 applications, okay? Wikipedia lists over 200 major social media applications. And I focus on 9. And I focus on those 9 in a certain way. There are many, many ways to look at social media. There's an analytical way, there's this way. I focus on a content conversation, but that's not the only way. There are many, many, many ways to poke at this stuff, right? I have one way with just 9 tools. It is a huge field. And I'm constantly learning. If it makes you feel any better, I feel just as overwhelmed as you do. Every day, it's like another news article. Every day, Facebook made another change. I gave a seminar in California in November on a Monday. I woke up Tuesday, there was a huge change in Facebook, and I had to go back and email them and say, sorry, I woke up and found this big change. And so what I do is I said, come to my Facebook business page, Follow me on Facebook, and I try to update as often as I can all the changes that are happening and the latest and greatest trends. That's all I do all day. And also, there are ways that I train people how to have content come to you, so you don't have to actively seek it out. It comes to you automatically every single day. So there are a number of ways that you can actually use this stuff to make it very powerful, and it comes to you rather than you have to run around and search for it all the time. So to answer your question, I hope that answers your question. It's just trial and error, and just refining it over 2 years, and giving these seminars and thinking about it and blogging about it and thinking about it and talking to other people, going to other seminars, listening to other people who I really respect, who do a really, really nice job, and collaborating. I hope that answers your question.
Is it fair to say then that you're kind of an explorer in all this media technology,
Very fair.
and as things evolve, you're finding new ways to use it?
That is an excellent way of putting it, an explorer. Social media explorer. I love it. And I mean that. That's an excellent way of putting it. Because early in the presentation I said we're all dancing with bags on our heads. I meant that too. I kind of wince when people say you're a social media expert. I kind of, I used to say I'm not an expert and that would turn people off, but I still wince. I just, no. There's no one is. And that's the truth.
What were you trained to do?
Oh, I've had, look, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm an ADHD at about a 14. I mean, I've never held a job for longer. The truth is I've never held a job for longer than a year and a half. I either quit or get fired, right? I've quit 2 federal government jobs. I used to work for the federal government. I quit both. All right, who does that, right? I was a federal auditor, the Inspector General's office, Department of Transportation in Washington. I quit. I was a federal economist. I quit. I've been in real estate. I quit. In real estate, I got fired. I worked in IT. I got fired. But I have a master's in communication management from the University of Southern California. I did a lot of different things. I have a BA in economics and philosophy. I got a master's in communications. Because really what I am is a communicator. That's what I learned about myself after making all these mistakes and getting fired from all these jobs and quitting, was that I really fundamentally not an analytics guy. I'm really a communicator in a network. And so I got my master's in communications, and then from that evolved into this. So my background is very, very diverse. It's not easy to peg into a certain box. I actually don't have a marketing background at all, but I am a natural networker. So this broad experience, and I've lived in China. I speak Mandarin like a smart 5-year-old, enough to shock the waiters and waitresses at restaurants. I'm really, really in my heart a communicator and a networker, which is why this works so naturally for sort of my personality. And I'm very fortunate this technology happened to come around just as my career was, shifting. Thank goodness. Thank you, Mark Zuckerberg, because I don't know what I'd be doing if not for this, because this really fits me very, very well. And I hope that answers your question as well.
Any other questions you have here? Well, David, it was wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Yes,